Welcome to the Paper Trail, where we follow the journey, my journey, through the world of a CEO of a mortgage note fund. I'm Chris 70, and after years of buying, managing, and selling notes with 70 investments, I'm here to share the real stories behind the deals. What went right, what went wrong, and what I wish I knew earlier. From non-performing loans to seller financing to private lending, this show is about more than strategies, about growing your business, learning to follow the paper trail, and doing the due diligence that separates the pros from the rest. Now, let's hit the trail running. Welcome to this episode of the Paper Trail podcast, another episode of Get to Know Your Speaker for the conference we are hosting, the Paper Trail Conference, September 18th to 20th in Chandler, Arizona. Today, I had the honor to speak with Matt Kelley. Matt is a full-time note and real estate investor, acquiring nationwide delinquent loans and real property. As a certified foreclosure expert in the states of California, Arizona, Nevada, and Washington, Matt has been called upon as an expert witness in the fields of foreclosure, default, loss mitt, and has advised some of the largest mortgage servicing companies, credit unions, law firms, and investors throughout the United States. I have known Matt for several years. What I love about Matt and what we dive into on this episode and getting to know Matt is there's no BS. Matt calls it like he sees it, and had a great time speaking with Matt, talking about the note space, learn more about Matt and where we see things headed in this space. So hope you get to enjoy this episode and see you in September. Matt, how are you doing today?
It's a good day, and I'm always happy to catch up and chat, Chris.
Yeah, as I mentioned in the intro, Matt is one of the people I respect the most in this industry. Matt, calls it like he sees it, which is something you don't see a lot of in this space, and something I like to think I do as well. When you're trying to find information or learn about this space, if you don't know who Matt Kelley is, he's definitely somebody you definitely want to get to know or learn more about. And with that, Matt, why don't you tell us how you got involved in note investing in the first place?
Again, I've known Chris for many years, so you're going to be able to also look at him and be able to see if I'm attempting to bullshit anybody, which there's no point, quite honestly. We both on here underwrite risk and debt for a living, and I got started working at a company that was a foreclosure trustee. That's a company that processes the legal paperwork involved in the non-judicial foreclosure process in a total of 13 different states. So I learned a lot within a very short period of time about a lot of different states, their collection processes. But in that position, I was also able to not only interact with, but see where a lot of notes were coming from. And I was seeing a lot of note investors do extremely well. And I will emphasize, by attending conferences, one of the things to do is look around the room. And if you can look around that room and say, my God, if some of these people are doing it, I sure can too. There's some truth to that. And I got invested in note investing partially because all roads do lead to notes. I've purchased properties on the courthouse steps. I've invested in real estates in a variety of different ways, and a lot of it boils down to the note. And there's a lot of money to be able to found moving upstream. So we found that rather than buying on the courthouse steps in the wind and the rain and the snow, there was a lot of power and a lot of profit to be able to moving up the food chain and becoming the bank, those that actually own the note. And especially at the time I was doing so, there was a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. And you've also had a focus not only on first and seconds, which I know in the past, seconds were something you looked at more frequently. And I know if anybody ever wants to debate Matt on first seconds, make sure you do a lot of background on it. But you've done both, correct?
That is correct. And I did want to stress that part, as that I believe in opportunity, and that is, there is opportunity all over the place, and it does take place in a lot of ways. But I have come from a company with considerably more resources and a lot more underwriting power to now that I'm an individual investor with completely different outlook upon the entirety of note investing. As there is a place and there are individuals for first mortgage note investing, which is great, but also there is opportunity in a lot of ways for second mortgages, which can on occasion exceed that of even firsts.
Yep. Yes, I've known people, including yourself, who have hit some really grand slams on those seconds and so forth. You mentioned, and one thing that I've always known you for is the underwriting process and
Hmm.
going through that, because a lot of things that people see online is all the nice, sexy, shiny objects of how to raise money or how to do this or that. You like to talk a lot, and I'm an engineer by trade, so underwriting is something that I enjoy as well, talking about, which a lot of people might find boring, but to me, that's where you make your money. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I do believe that underwriting is the most important part. Raising money is exceptionally easy, especially when there's a deal in hand, especially when there's opportunities about, and there are a lot of notes available, not just on the brokerage websites, but there are a lot of notes in various places that one can go to, some of which have different information packages. But I will premise that as again, as we underwrite risk for a living, I don't really trust anybody when it comes to the information being presented. I can trust but verify. And being able to verify all the information, whether it be lien position, delinquency status, documents of record, just all the little nuances come to it. That is something that can be very easily learned, very quickly learned. And there's also other individuals out there that one can run the information by. As this is a community, not only a community within the conferences that one can attend, the online support groups of the Facebook groups, but additionally, there's teams of individuals from title companies, the actual foreclosure trustees or foreclosure attorneys. And I do want to stress that they do not want you to screw up, because if you screw up, it makes their life more difficult. The servicers that are out there want you to be compliant when regards to everything, whether it be licensing, if it's needed. Most of the time it's not, but it's always good to double check, as well as the documents that one is looking at. All these individuals are out there to help you out, and the vast majority of them are absolutely free of charge.
Yep. What's one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're underwriting loans?
I'm going through in my mind a lot of mistakes that people make. It is
There's
not
a
a
laundry
short
list.
list.
Yeah.
I have underwritten tens of thousands of loans, and
Yeah.
I have processed foreclosures on behalf of thousands of investors
Mhm.
and tens of thousands of foreclosures as a result. I've seen everywhere from title issues, whether it's not understanding they're in first position, second position, not understanding the data that's provided to them from the servicer or the seller, and that there are bars as to not only statutes of limitations, but on what's usually referred to as zombie loans.
Yep.
There are some problems when it comes to just old defaulted loans, and that gets into very technical language. But not reaching out is quite honestly the biggest mistake that I see. And that's reaching out to, again, the foreclosure trustees, the servicers, reaching out to others within their community to be able to get another voice, get another pair of eyes on a particular property, as some people are very put a lot of emphasis on an in-person inspection, when in reality this is a numbers game. And
Yep.
if we were to break down what pays a note, there is value within the homeowner and what's usually referred to as emotional equity, but the reality is it's actual equity, and it's the property will ultimately pay off the note rather than over a
Yep.
period of 20, 40 years.
Yep. And one thing that I've learned also over time and is you got to underwrite the seller as well and make sure you know who you're doing business with. That is very important.
That was very high up on my list. It wasn't the biggest one, but Chris and I have been over this many times as we're both very passionate about it. As much energy as one puts into underwriting the debtor, one
Mhm.
should put effectively equal energy into underwriting the seller. Not only do they actually own the note, but that they don't have a lot of judgments against them. They don't have
Mhm.
active lawsuits, particularly from other investors, that
Yeah.
there's not a tarnished history, and
Mhm.
they are open and active. Not only you can see that they attend other conferences, but you can
Mhm.
also perhaps see that
Mhm.
they have other mortgages and notes out there from documents of
Mhm.
record.
Yep, because there's one company out there that we know that
A
is
lot
in a
more than one.
lawsuit. Yeah, one's
A
in a
lot more
lawsuit
than
right now
one.
because they're selling the same loan to multiple people, as well as I
Uh,
think they took like a line of
there's
credit.
several
And
companies doing that.
yeah,
Yeah.
we had one recently. It wasn't anything fraudulent, but we had small pool loans under agreement, and got ready to close, and basically, okay, LSA, we had already agreed to LSA, let's get executed. Why are the funds? They come back, oh, we're pulling the trade because one of the loans is paying off. I'm like, oh, come on, okay. But there's still, it
You
was
can't hold
small.
that one against them.
Yeah, but it was four loans, but they pulled all four. And I'm like, okay. But then literally 3 weeks later, they call us up and say, the loan didn't pay off. Do you want to do the trade? So we say yes. And I'm like, resend the LSA. And this was on a Friday. So on Monday, I call back and I'm like, okay, we ready to go? They're like, oh no, we're pulling it again. And I'm like, okay.
Done.
Yep. And then a month later, they called again and said, hey, you still interested in those loans? I'm like, no, I'm good. Pull it once, a loan gets paid off. Hey, I understand that happens all the time. We have done that. But then the second time, and what it was is actually it wasn't getting paid off. The borrower was trying to sell the property and it was going sale pending. And then it kept falling out of sale, which is to me different than getting a payoff. But
A
either way,
lot more
so
common now than it
yeah.
was a year ago.
Yeah, but yeah, so underwriting the borrower. Also, I think one thing people don't understand is when they get these title reports, to understand a title report isn't title insurance. And I've seen title reports wrong or
All the
miss
time.
loans or
It,
stuff.
I'll likely
Mhm.
go into it once in the more extended presentation,
Yep.
but that is a point of personal annoyance for me. There's a lot of different programs that are out there, none of which are the gospel truth. A
Yep.
title report is a guaranteed product. It's a form of insurance as to the state
Hmm.
of title at a given point in time. Things
Hmm.
happen since then. But a title report is supposed to be a snapshot of the property at a given moment in time. There are other things that happen where we'll
Hmm.
explore and go into what's a title plant date. If you Google it,
Yep.
it's just good through that moment of time, but it's not
Hmm.
necessarily now. But alternatively, not just going back a few weeks, as again, there is benefit in understanding, is that title report just pulling from the grantor grantee index with just the person's name? Are they looking at the assessor's parcel number? Because sometimes judgments and municipal liens attach via just the APN. It doesn't matter who owns the property.
Hmm.
And other ones, again, judgments under their name, that again will attach to the property via that way. And there's a lot of different methods in which these things attach. And quite honestly, title reports don't look at all of them. So there is
Hmm.
benefit in verifying the information. I've also seen
Hmm.
liens missed regularly on these title reports, some of which are free of charge. And I do stress that's a great way to not only start, but it's a great resource, even on
Hmm.
scale. But having the ability to go back and double check it when something might not necessarily be right, or you're really trying to sharpen your pencil and be the most aggressive possible while still hitting your margins, there's a lot
Hmm.
of benefit in understanding where that information comes from and being able to verify it and do so very inexpensively,
Yep.
if not
Yeah,
free of
because
charge.
yeah, we found multiple times where there were additional liens on a property that didn't show up, or recently had an investor reach out to me because they had bought a loan, pulled title, and didn't show any municipal liens. And this is in Cook County. So, of all places, they end up getting a deed in lieu, or they got the property back and they have it under agreement to sell, and they're selling it with a warranty deed. So, it's coming with title insurance, and title insurance comes
Yeah.
in and says, oh, by the way, here are all these municipal liens that got to get paid off. And
Mm.
it's on that list, this seller who owned the property would actually have to pay to sell the property, essentially.
Correct, because they used a warranty deed instead of a special warranty deed.
Yep.
And
So,
it also depends on the state, but that's a very
mhm.
nuanced example
Yep.
that also could very easily be run by a title company and also could be run by the foreclosure trustee that would be able to answer that questions as to who's liable for what and when.
Yep. So I want to pivot real quick because one thing I think people talk about right now, which I think is a fallacy in some sense, because most investors out there literally are only buying a handful of notes here and there, and
Yep.
everyone's complaining, I can never find any inventory. And people are trying to find these needles in a haystack. Yes, we've seen less notes over the last several years and so forth, but from a abundance standpoint, what's your opinion on where we are in the market today and where you think it's headed?
Note market or real estate market?
Note market.
Note market is tough, to be
Mhm.
very honest. The downflow of notes, the connection of Wall Street to Main Street, so to speak, has been broken up many years ago, and the
Mhm.
notes are still out there. They are still being sold, but not necessarily to you.
Yeah.
There are notes in bulk. I'm going to tell you about some trades that are going on right now when we're done with this call, I think you'll be interested in
Mhm.
getting that breach. There are a lot of very licensed brokers, and being able to connect with them, even to buy a handful, is entirely possible, including
Mhm.
one-off deals, small trades. And I've become, over the years, a much bigger fan of utilizing licensed brokers, especially on the small scale, as there is an additional level of protection. And I do stress the license part of it, as there's a
Mhm.
lot of people out there that call themselves broker, but I know that's a
Mhm.
personal annoyance to you for the daisy chain investors.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, yeah, it's gotten a
Mhm.
little tougher, but there is immense power in being creative, being able
Mhm.
to look around and find out where notes are beyond the traditional sites, and also
Mhm.
reaching out directly to sellers. And
Mhm.
I'll
Yep.
definitely be talking about some of the strategies. That's
Yep.
how to do. I'm very happy to
Mhm.
share information, as one of the
Mhm.
biggest things is, quite honestly, I don't view anybody as competition within this industry. And additionally, I've also found the biggest way to keep a secret is just to tell everyone.
Yeah, it's you've done the same thing I do. I'm very similar. Like I give everything away, and half the people I know I give it to, or probably 90%, do nothing with it,
Yep.
which, you know, is,
But
you
they
know,
come up a year or two later and ask you how it's going and what you're doing. And you're like, the thing I talked about last time, I'm
yeah,
doing that. How's it going?
yeah, yeah.
Fantastic.
So,
Okay.
um,
And then they keep doing what they're doing, which I have no problem with.
yep. Also, I know you run a website, After Auction Bid, that deals with foreclosures in California. And overall, on the real estate side, are you starting to see more foreclosures California? And love to get your opinion overall on real estate, which I know is market driven or MSA driven, but just curious to hear what your thoughts are.
To be clear, a lot of us, including Chris on this call, we do other things besides just notes. I love
Yeah.
notes. I'm a big fan of notes,
Mm.
but it's very easy to do other things as well. This is not a full-time gig whatsoever. In
Mm.
fact, it takes very little time,
Mm.
especially when it can be done well and efficiently. So, getting back to afterauctionbid.com, I really wasn't here to promote it, quite honestly, as I don't need the competition, but I do
Mm.
welcome everyone. After Auction Bid is a website relating to a law in California that passed a couple years ago called SB
Mm.
1079. I can keep
Mm.
going on about that. But
Mm.
what happens is a property goes to foreclosure sale. And when that happens, people bid on it or not. Regardless,
Mm.
it goes to foreclosure sale and it becomes either bank owned or owned by a third party. The law changed in California. There's a few other states where this applies too, but I'm dealing with
Mm.
California, even live there. And I can come in after the foreclosure sale, either as a prospective owner occupant if I want to do just a one off, or if I want to do it on scales, I do it as a nonprofit and be able to buy the property at the foreclosure sale after the fact for that price or a dollar more.
Mm.
So I've been able to look at the basically the winning racehorse and seeing the results of yesterday's winners, and be trying to just go, oh, I wish I was there at the right place at the right
Mm.
time with the right amount of money. Now it can be. In fact, I have a total of 45 days to do my research and be able to buy that property after the fact. And if it sounds easy, quite honestly, it is. There's still immense benefit in being the bank, but
Mm.
sometimes I like skipping to the end and just buying properties at foreclosure sale or even
Yeah.
after the auction and bid on
Mhm.
them. But with that said, it has gotten to be a much tighter market, and that it was largely investor driven within years past. And hedge funds and wholesalers would utilize foreclosure sales as a very off brand for them, is that they
Mhm.
wouldn't do that all the time. They wouldn't count on it. It would just be some
Mhm.
things where they'd occasionally get some home runs. But as the market has been a dumpster fire in terms of pricing, that in
Yeah.
California, which is much more sensitive than other parts of the country, and it's
Mhm.
again regional, that it's certain
Mhm.
counties, certain cities, certain places are doing worse than other ones. But we're seeing a shift in the funds that they're now going to the more nuanced forms of
Mhm.
investment. So we are seeing properties
Mhm.
sell more at the
Mhm.
foreclosure sale and for a
Mhm.
significantly higher price, which, by
Yeah.
the way, is fantastic for note investors because they're getting paid off or getting
Yeah.
paid at or above the price which they were comfortable taking it to sale for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one aspect of note investing that I think a lot of people, I don't want to use some forget, but just are not cognizant of is those properties that have equity in
Hmm.
it. People are always nervous. Oh, I'm going to take this property back. And I'm like, I've got a $300,000 note on a $700,000 property and the borrower's deceased. Hey, I would love to get that property back for
Yep,
that equity, but I'm really not going to in
correct.
most instances. And yeah, when you talk again, California, I'm seeing in Texas and Florida, you want to talk dumpster fire in a bad way. It is
It actually works out fantastic for me.
Yeah.
We're the opposite of everything
Mm,
else. Prices are going up. That's
yeah.
very nice. That's good. But ultimately, when prices are going down, this will result as, and we talked
Mm,
about the market tightening. Where are
mhm,
we at? We're well into 2008, 2009
mm,
as the prices are going down. And a lot of what happens in real estate, generally, whenever you're hearing about the news, it started at least 6 months ago.
yeah.
And I've been doing presentations for a while, and I talked about when I
Mm,
thought things started as they were
mm,
happening, and I believe I was correct in
mm,
all those regards. But when it comes to those pricing, that's something that we take into consideration as note investors, as
mhm,
taking the property back, being able to flip it,
mhm,
sell it, do all the above. Those are
mhm,
things that we take into consideration, including the
mhm,
timelines it will take
mhm.
to collect upon said note. As
Yeah.
some states vary greatly. Florida, years. Texas,
Mhm,
very short time frame.
yeah. That's one of the things where I have some notes in Florida, but I've never been like oh my God, Florida. Like certain people like love Florida. And for me, I'm like, I'm not a big fan of it because it takes so long to foreclose. Now the mandatory mediation
But
and
if you
everything
Google it, all
else.
you hear
Yeah.
about is the expedited timeline, but one challenge, and that's out the window.
Yeah.
And they are going to challenge it because they're already in court. What
Hmm.
Chris and I are discussing is the
Hmm.
differences between judicial and non-judicial.
Yeah.
Non-judicial is you're
Hmm.
not in court. It does
Hmm.
not involve the court system, judges, attorneys,
Yeah.
anything along those lines. So it tends to be
Hmm.
faster and cheaper.
Hmm.
Whereas judicial foreclosure process, which is a
Hmm.
lot of states, especially the
Hmm.
eastern ones and a bunch in the
Yeah.
Midwest, those ones you're already in court. It is being
Yeah.
processed by attorneys, or even
Hmm.
it's a quasi judicial,
Hmm.
that it is processed by attorneys, but it's still a non judicial process.
Yeah. And then the other component to that I think a lot of people forget about is in certain jurisdictions, just because you're foreclosed, then you still got to take possession or get the deed to the property. I've had in Maryland where it's taken me a year from a
Hmm.
foreclosure sale to have the sale ratified. And
Correct.
I wasn't even the high bidder. I didn't take it
Yep.
back. It was sold at third party. Yep. That's one thing
And
I,
there's a lot of craziness to it, but guess what? You can figure out all this stuff without knowing it. And a lot of this you're not going to be able to figure out by Google, but pick up the
yeah.
phone, call an attorney, call a
Hmm.
foreclosure trustee, call the
Yeah.
servicer, and
Hmm.
even call some other investors or even post
Hmm.
about it in some of the online Facebook
Hmm.
groups, as there's
Yep.
plenty of people out there to help out, lots of people with experience, and most of us freely share.
Yeah, that's one thing that I find in this space. Certain people, and I don't know if it's an ego thing, but people are afraid to just pick up the phone and call people, get other advice or opinions. To me, I want to try and use as much people's brain power as I can who've been there, done that in this
It's not
space.
the first time you've heard this. You're not normal.
Yeah. So,
I consider that a
um,
compliment, though.
yeah. Matt, final thoughts. Again, we have you speaking at the conference on, underwriting. Look forward to, I don't know, have we physically met? I can't recall if we've actually ever met in
We've been to
person.
enough conferences. It's definitely
Yeah.
happened in a few
Yeah.
places, but it would
So,
have
but
been Vegas at some point. So if
yeah.
it's not memorable, I know
Yeah.
why for you.
But go ahead.
We're going to talk about a lot, and Chris is hopefully going to razz me
Mhm.
more than a little bit. It's strongly
Yeah.
encouraged. And
Mhm.
I'm going to talk about believing in what you do, not as an
Mhm.
empowerment, motivational sense, but
Mhm.
there is profits to be made, and there is power within utilizing investors,
Mhm.
utilizing funds, but
Mhm.
also putting your own skin in the game.
Yep. And for everyone listening, again, that is September 18th to 20th in Chandler, Arizona. Go to papertrailconference.com to get your tickets today. So, Matt, thanks for coming on today. Great speaking with you. And for those listening, also make sure to order your tickets and leave your favorite review for us on your favorite listening station. So, take care and thank you all. Thanks for joining me on this episode of The Paper Trail. I hope today's insights help you sharpen your note investing strategies. If you found value in this conversation, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow investors. I'm Chris Seveny, reminding you to keep doing the work, trust the process, and always follow the paper trail. Until next time.